140 Ukrainian drones attacked multiple Russian regions overnight, Russia reports.
The European Commission says Hungary's threats to bus migrants to Brussels are unacceptable.
Vestager triumphant. Commission wins important cases against Apple and Google.
Pope Francis has called for the protection of young people during his visit to Timor-Leste.
The Israeli army launched a deadly strike on a designated humanitarian zone in Gaza on Tuesday. At least 40 people died with scores wounded, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. The EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell blasted Israel over its actions in Gaza, describing the city's dire situation as a human-made tragedy.
And the European Union will continue supporting the Palestinians, but at the same time knowing that we have to look for a political solution. Because to feed someone with a dinner tonight in order to be killed tomorrow is not exactly the solution.
Borrell delivered the blistering remarks while visiting Egypt's Rafah crossing and threatened sanctions over settlements in the occupied West Bank.
There are not only these two ministers, but also some agencies, some institutions which we believe are responsible for the illegal expansion of colonies in the West Bank, which are also being proposed as sanctions.
The war has plunged the Gaza Strip into a humanitarian crisis. This is due to ongoing fighting, Israeli restrictions and the breakdown of law and order.
Over 140 Ukrainian drones targeted multiple Russian regions early Tuesday, killing at least one person. Just outside Moscow, one woman was reportedly killed as drones hit two residential buildings, according to Moscow Region Governor Andrei Vorobyov. A video published by the Russian Telegram channel MASH appeared to show a drone crashing into the building.
Дом рядом.
3 people were injured in the attack, the Moscow governor said. The reported incident marks one of the largest drone attacks on Russian territory since it started its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Overall, Russia's defense ministry said it intercepted and destroyed 144 Ukrainian drones over 9 Russian regions. This would be the second major Ukrainian drone attack on Russia this month. On 1 September, the Russian military said it intercepted 158 Ukrainian drones over more than a dozen regions.
The European Commission has sharply criticised the Hungarian government for threatening to bus migrants from Hungary's borders to the EU capital, Brussels. The Commission says the provocation, if followed through, would be illegal and would put the security of the passport-free Schengen zone at risk.
First of all, in terms of the announcements made by the Hungarian authorities that they would transport irregular migrants from the Hungarian-Serbian borders to Brussels, in one word, basically, it is unacceptable. So this action, if carried out, would be in clear breach of the EU law, but also it will be in clear breach of the principle of sincere and loyal cooperation, but also of the mutual trust. In addition, it will also undermine the security of the Schengen area as a whole.
The threats are part of an ongoing spat between Budapest and Brussels after the EU's highest court slapped a €200 million fine on Hungary for restricting the right to asylum back in 2020. The Hungarian government has missed the first deadline to pay that fine. If it continues to refuse to pay up, the Commission could deduct it from Hungary's allocated share of the EU budget. Brussels has said it will leave no stone unturned to ensure Hungary refrains from carrying out its threats.
The Commission is in touch with the Hungarian authorities to ensure that, that this action is not taking place and that Hungary refrains from it. We're also in touch with the neighboring countries, but also with the Justice and Home Affairs agencies, and we are also standing ready to use all our powers under the treaty to ensure that the EU law is respected.
The latest escalation puts further strain on the relationship between Brussels and Budapest. Viktor Orban's government has taken a confrontational stance towards EU migration policies, claiming they force Hungary to allow irregular migrants to cross its borders.
Germany is toughening its border controls by introducing temporary checks at all of its borders. German Interior Minister Nancy Faeser says it is an attempt to reduce irregular migration.
Bis wir mit dem neuen gemeinsamen europäischen Asylsystem zu einem starken Schutz der EU-Außengrenzen kommen, müssen wir an unseren nationalen Grenzen noch stärker kontrollieren. Diese Kontrollen ermöglichen auch effektive Zurückweisung.
Temporary border controls will be set up at the land borders with France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Denmark for a period of 6 months. The same measures are already in place on the borders with Poland, the Czech Republic, Austria, and Switzerland. Europe's Schengen area allows for free travel between member countries. However, member states are allowed to introduce border checks if they feel there is a threat to internal security. Faeser adds that the government has already notified the European Union of the intended controls.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez met with Chinese leader Xi Jinping in Beijing to discuss deepening trade relations, the Spanish government said.
Y España quiere trabajar de manera constructiva para que las relaciones entre ambas regiones sean más cercanas, más ricas y más equilibradas.
The leaders also discussed international conflicts, such as Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Spain is a member of NATO, an alliance that China says prompted Russian President Vladimir Putin into war. While the two countries have differing opinions on the fighting, Sanchez and Xi agreed on strengthening bilateral ties. The call for dialogue comes as relations between China and the EU reaches boiling point, with Brussels slapping hefty tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles. The leaders did not announce any specifics pertinent to electric vehicles at the meeting.
The European Commission has won 2 court cases against big tech companies Apple and Google. Apple will now have to return 13 billion euros in taxes to Ireland after the European Court of Justice revised a previous ruling and concluded that the US company did benefit from artificially low taxes between 1991 and 2014.
Ireland granted Apple unlawful aid, which Ireland now has to recover. Few member states were relying on tax rulings and aggressive tax planning arrangements to become a more attractive destination for multinational investment. This harmed other member states and the European taxpayer, of course.
This is the final judgment, but in a statement, Apple, whose European headquarters are in Ireland, still expressed disagreement and insisted that there has never been a special deal. The US company believes the Commission is now trying to retroactively change the rules and ignore that Apple was already paying taxes in the US. But for Oxfam, this is a case of tax justice that will help small companies, but above all, citizens that will benefit from recovering taxes.
We are just talking about fair taxation. When a company like Apple paid 0.005%, this is unfair. There is no European citizens, maybe some billionaires, that pay so few taxes. So I think it's really an issue of a level playing field. I mean, we should pretend companies and also wealthy individuals to pay more. These are not profit then that go into investment.
In the second case, the European Commission also won a judgment in its favor against Google Shopping. The European Court of Justice ruled that the company favored their own services over their competition, abusing their dominant position in the market.
US presidential candidates Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are gearing up for their first ever debate ahead of the 2024 elections in November. The events will take place in Philadelphia on Wednesday at 3 a.m. Central European Time. The debates will offer American voters their most detailed look at a presidential race that's dramatically changed since President Joe Biden dropped out in June. And as the only scheduled debate between the two candidates, it's likely to be a defining moment for both their campaigns.
Pope Francis has called for the protection of young people during his visit to Timor-Leste. By doing so, he indirectly acknowledged the abuse scandal involving independence hero Bishop Carlos Jiménez Bello.
Y no olvidemos a tantos niños y adolescentes heridos en su dignidad. Este fenómeno está aflorando en todo el mundo. Todos estamos llamados a actuar como responsabilidad para prevenir todo tipo de abuso y garantizar un crecimiento sereno a nuestros jóvenes.
Timor-Leste is the most Catholic country outside of the Vatican. Its residents were eager to welcome the first Pope to visit them as an independent nation. This is the Pope's third stop on his 12-day Southeast Asia and Oceania tour, having previously visited Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. After Timor-Leste, the Pope will visit Singapore before returning to Rome on the 13th of September.